Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Tuesdays with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. And now your host, Brian Tally.
Welcome back to Tuesdays with Tally Podcast, where we add real-life value to the lives of everyday people. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. We are on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Anchor FM, and Spotify. Simply search Tuesdays with Tally and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to get every episode and stay up to date with the latest and greatest our guests in this show has to offer. Now, folks, I want to celebrate day 125 of this brand new podcast with our 88th episode. 88 episodes in 125 days. Will we make it to 100 before that clock strikes 2023? I sure hope so. God willing, we most certainly will. Now, folks, I want to talk directly to you out there. Are you a business owner? Are you looking to get some gear out? Any promotional items? Do you have a service that you want to get out to the general public? Perhaps a book? Maybe you got some gear, some merchandise. Let me know. Advertise your business right here on this podcast. Let me help you reach your goals. Contact me at thetallybill@gmail.com. That's thetallybill@gmail.com. And let's put a marketing plan together and develop a strategy that will take your business to the next level. Now, today's show sponsor is dreamingaboutthemouse.com. Now, let me tell you a little bit about these guys that I recently came across, a travel agency out of Colorado Springs. Now, Dreaming About the Mouse Travel is a Christian-based travel agency with a heart of service that uses their years of expertise to help turn your vacation dreams into reality. Their number one goal is to take the stress out of planning for busy families and to serve them with integrity. They take care of all the details, and you get to experience all the fun, make new memories, and share in the excitement that your vacation will offer. Well, how do you get a hold of them? Simple. Call 719-216-2626 and ask for Lynn. She will take great care of you, and she will be sure to plan that next vacation, again, to make the memories of a lifetime. Call Lynn today, 719-216-2626, or email her at lynn@dreamingaboutthemouse.com. That's LYNN @dreamingaboutthemouse.com to book your next vacation today. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. Chris Whittemore served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1995 to 1999 as an Infantry Machine Gunner for 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines. He left the Marine Corps in 1999 and became a Texas State Trooper until 2004. As a result of the global war on terror, Chris was called to return to service and re-enlisted into the Marine Corps and was assigned to 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines in 29 Palms, California. Chris joined the Scout Sniper Platoon and in 2005 deployed to Ramadi, Iraq. Upon returning from his deployment, he transferred to 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, and deployed to Iraq in 2007, conducting operations in Karma, Zidon, and Fallujah. Upon his re-enlistment, he cross-trained and became a UH-1 Huey helicopter crew chief, deploying with HMLA 369 in 2010 to Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Upon returning, he became a recruiter and worked tirelessly to bring new Marines into the fold. In 2013, Chris was sent to the Wounded Warrior Battalion in San Antonio. While there, he underwent multiple surgeries and finally returned in 2015 from the Marine Corps. Mr. Whittemore earned a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice and a Master of Science in Forensic Psychology. After retiring, he was a valued member of the Drug Enforcement Agency. Chris then moved to the Veterans Treatment Court as a case manager. He now works as a military service officer, helping veterans and servicemen and women get disability ratings and benefits within the VA. Finally, Mr. Whittemore is a disabled veteran with firsthand experience and knowledge of the VA healthcare system. And with that, we are honored to be joined by U.S. Marine Combat veteran Chris Whittemore. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on, sir? Thank you so much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure to finally meet you face to face or computer to computer.
Absolutely. Eyeball to eyeball. I love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I'm sitting here reading your bio, right? A couple nights ago, and I'm just shaking my head like, what hasn't this guy done? And you've done it all very well. I mean, and these aren't easy jobs here. I mean, a machine gunner, a crew chief on the Hueys, a scout sniper. I mean, just alone as a scout sniper, just being gillied up. I mean, and literally pissing your pants in the field because you can't move. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah. It's been a wild ride, man. It's been, and hearing all that, I'm just like shaking my own head. I'm like, what were you thinking? You know, like. But it's been a wild ride, and weirdly enough, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yes, those. You know, when I was stationed in Camp Lejeune, I worked the rifle range out there, and we issued weapons to the scout snipers every morning, and then they would turn them back in after they cleaned them, of course. But watching those guys train out there in Lejeune, the swift, the silent, the deadly, the movement is so slow and methodical, and you don't see them until you got a bullet in between your eyes, really. And I mean, talk about the best of the best. So I can certainly, I know what the training's like because I watched these guys for about 6 months train, and it's pretty intensive.
Yeah. I really wish I was in Lejeune, truth be told, instead of 29 Palms. But yeah, 29 Palms was a better place to train for Iraq and Afghanistan for sure. So it was it's good to be there, but I would have rather been in Lejeune with the trees and the big tall green grass. It would have made it a lot easier to move around. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's why I couldn't see those guys in the ghillie suits, man. I was like, dude, I literally can't. And I was like, all right, I'm going to let them go for an hour. Then I'm going to go check and I'm going to see if I can see these guys. Nope.
Yeah. No. And yeah, no, we could in that kind of environment, we could probably sneak up within about 300 to 400 yards, maybe depending on the terrain and stuff like that. So we're already way too close to worry about if we're there. You just, you're going to hear that slight crack, and then it's game over anyway. So it's
it's game over.
Time to reset the video game, trying to get more lives back in there.
Oh man, what a warrior! So, we've got so much to talk about, and I want to just dive right in. You're going to have so much value to be added from. I mean, just talking about your service, how you got there, being a police officer, and doing all the stuff that you've done in veteran court, and doing everything that you're doing to help veterans get their VA disability benefits. I mean, there's so much out there that people are going to want to know about you, what you do, and then you're an author. I mean, you just wrote a book, Terror to Triumph. And again, I mean, it's remarkable what you've done. But tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Northern California, up in a small town that's slowly rebuilding, but it was called Paradise, California. As everyone can remember, it has seen the Netflix films and stuff, Fire in Paradise. That fire gutted the town in about 3 hours, wiped out all the childhood memories, things like that. So many people lost their homes, lives. I mean, it was just absolutely devastating. But growing up young, back in the 90s, which really kind of dates myself a little bit, growing up, trees, rivers, mountains, snow, just being a kid out there running and gunning, never looking back, just having the time of my life. Family was all in the military, from my father, uncles, things like that. They all served in the Navy, except for one of my uncles who was in the Army as a paratrooper. Coming up, as my mom says, I saw the Marine in the dress blues walking down the street. I was like, oh, look, spit and polish, all like big dress blue uniform that's recognizable across the world. I was like, that's what I want to do. And I guess supposedly that was at 7 or 8 years old, which it's like, sure, Mom. Okay, cool. My biggest influence, besides the family lineage, being in the military, was my grandfather, who passed away back in 2010. He was a Silver Star recipient who actually was on Kaneohe Bay in Hawaii during the bombings of Pearl Harbor. And he actually, in the movie Pearl Harbor, where they show that hangar getting blown up, and all those guys getting thrown, he was actually coming back from the cafeteria or the chow hall when one of the hangars got blown up and all his friends were still inside and things like that. And he was awarded the Purple Heart, Silver Star, things like that. And he was definitely my biggest influence for sure.
Outstanding. You know, family is everything. And when you see your loved ones and, you know, your idols, if you will, your grandpa, you know, you're a kid and this guy's got a Purple Heart, a Silver Star. This guy was in combat at Pearl Harbor, you know, an attack on the United States of America. You're like, man, I want to be like him. I want to be a patriot like him and, you know, support and uphold and defend the Constitution of this great country. And,
absolutely,
you know, it does run deep. You know, the roots run deep in military service and so many families across this great land. And, you know, it's good that you decided to do that as well. And I'm very sorry about Paradise, California. I do remember that like it was yesterday, as I was in Southern California during that time of the fire. And I have a lot of great friends that were dispatched up there from Southern California, from Orange County, San Diego, Riverside County, that all went up there to assist and try to put out that fire as quickly as possible. But like you said, when you got 3 hours, you got a whole entire town. You know, there's nothing that you can do about that. So again, you know, I do apologize, you know, to you for that, man. That's got to be tough. But, you know, you would end up joining the Marine Corps in 1995, and that's odd because that's the same year I joined the Marine Corps.
Oh wow!
When did you go to boot camp? What month?
I'm going to freak out if we're there at the same time. September 19th, 1995.
Yeah, so we were there at the same time.
What?
So yeah, so we were marching on that same parade deck at some point. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah, I got there in July, and I graduated October 6th of 1995, and I still know all my drill instructors' names.
Oh, yeah.
All the way down to the green belts.
Yep, same here. Staff Sergeant Kimbrough, Sweeney, like I was Bravo, 1st Battalion Bravo. So yeah, we spent many hours on that parade deck, many hours in that little dirt lot, sandbox over by the chow hall, because God forbid we messed up drill and the senior drill instructor would put on his green belt and you'd see his black belt on the foot locker and it's like, oh, game over. So it's,
yep. God, absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty wild, man.
Wow. What?
I was 2nd Battalion Hotel.
Did you guys were you guys the ones that had that guy who leapt off the 2nd or 3rd deck in the barracks?
Yeah, that was something that did happen. It was the 3rd deck. Yeah, that was actually in August.
And you guys were on the left.
It could have been, you know, I think that was actually early September. There was a few during that cycle. There was like 2 or 3. It was pretty sad, to say the least.
And I think you guys were the top left, and we were on the right side. So, like, we remember hearing about that because I think Bravo and Hotel were right next to each other during that training thing.
Well, yeah, the great thing is we face the airport. So I'm sitting in the rack at night. And I'm like watching all these airplanes leave Lindbergh Field, right? Or, you know, the San Diego airport. And I'm like, good God, man. I wish I was on one of those birds.
Yep. And all that separated was that one fence. And as you're running the PFT course. It's right along the fence line. You're like, God, I could hop this fence, be on the airport. I'll ride in the belly of this stupid thing all the way back. Or when you're up at Camp Pendleton during second phase, you can see I-5 running right there. God almighty.
You're like the Amtrak trains and all the cars and buses and the smell of the perfume. See, that's the thing that always got me at boot camp. Every Thursday afternoon, you get the family coming in to get ready for that big graduation day on Friday, and you smell that cologne and perfume, and you're like, damn, I got 2 more months of this shit.
Yeah. Oh, God almighty. That absolutely blows my mind that we were there during the same time.
Yeah.
Like, that's oh.
So you get through boot camp, and you would ultimately become a scout sniper. It would send you overseas. You had several tours over there. You were in Afghanistan. You were in Iraq. Tell me about what it was like being a scout sniper overseas in combat.
Oh, man. Being with the sniper teams, I was initially I was trained up to roll with the mechanized guys in the gun trucks and going out, 5, 6, 7, 8 trucks deep. And now we're going out 6 deep. There was just 6 of us. We'd get dropped off, go hang out. Sometimes we'd take over houses with, an entire family. So we'd have to put them all in one room while the, security team set up shop downstairs. We would set up the sniper hide upstairs. We'd be out in the city, and we were told from the get-go, you guys need to pack enough stuff to sustain a 20-minute firefight, because that's how long it's going to take for the QRF to get to you guys because of the city, the IED threat. So we literally knew as we were out there in the city, or if we were in an abandoned building, if things went south, we had Claymore mines set up on the stairs leading up to the second deck in case we had to blow those. We had flashbangs and tripwire around the outside of the house, trying to set up security, early warning devices. And it was probably the most scared I've ever been initially, because you just know you're on your own. But at the same time, it was exciting to know, like, man, that as far as the enemy knows, we're in any one of these 200 windows looking down on this road. I mean, you just don't know. So the psychological impact that you had on the enemy as well was amazing. Like, to me, that aspect of it was the greatest part, because we were in harm's way trying to oversee and sneak in, and I'm sure they had an idea sometimes, but they didn't know where we were. And for that, maybe that took the threat away from the guys, on the patrols and things like that. So I think it was just an amazing experience. And, many close calls, though, were had as we did our jobs as well. And, and thankfully, the jamming technology of those vehicles really saved our butts countless amounts of times.
So I've got a question for you. What does 20 minutes look like? What does packing enough gear for a 20-minute firefight look like?
Most missions would be about 3 days out in the city. Of course, we're always going to get extended. There was no 3-day anything, let's be real. But so 3 days, you'd probably go out there with maybe 4 bottles of water, maybe a few small, like, little protein bars, some Jolly Ranchers just to keep you awake, things like that. And then the rest of those rucksacks were packed full of hundreds and hundreds of rounds of 5.56. We all carried probably 8 to 9 magazines at least, multiple grenades, smoke grenades, claymore mines. I think for our saw gunners, the little small automatic weapons, they would carry the 200 round drum and over 700 rounds in their rucksack. And that was just that gun. And then, of course, we had the pistols, the M16s, the grenades, the grenade launchers, probably 5 or 6 flashbangs, 2 Claymore mines. I would carry. The other guy would carry an additional 2. So we would, thankfully, we never had to find out what 20 minutes was, but we definitely we carried a lot more grenades, bullets, things like that than food and water, because we were much more concerned with getting back across. We could eat when we get back, kind of thing. And so so that was about what 20 minutes would be. Is just overwhelming amount of just chaos.
So were you conducting these operations in urban terrain?
Yeah, we were right in the middle of the city of Ramadi. We would be dropped off probably, I want to use the military term click, but most people would be like, what the hell is a click? But to about, a mile, we'd get dropped off about a mile out, and we'd patrol in through the streets, and we'd just, hop a fence or hop a wall for that matter. And that's where we'd be. Lucky for me, I was the point man. So every time we turned a corner, cleared a house, things like that, I was always the first over the wall. So that made things very, very interesting. And so, we were smack dab in the middle of the city, like kind of going into Oceanside or going into, downtown San Antonio.
Now, what was the mission and objective of your patrols when you would go out? Now, you were in urban terrain, so you said that you would bring claymores and tripwires and kind of rig these, houses or these buildings that you were in. Were you there set up as a sniper, like sniping the bad guys as they came by or drove by? And if there was ever a fight, you could vacate that and then blow it? Or like, what did the movements look like? And again, what was the mission and the objective every time you went out on patrol?
Yeah. Every time we were out there, it was usually not always like be on the lookout for, this particular person. A lot of the missions were be on the lookout for IED planners, be on the lookout for the Chesney snipers that were operating around the city as well, that were taking pop shots at the guard posts and stuff like that. So we were kind of playing cat and mouse with some Chesnians. A few times we'd find dragging off rounds and kind of hide sites where that sniper probably took some shots. So we were looking for him, but the main mission was overseeing, making sure there was no IEDs getting planted along a route that a convoy or the battalion commander might be traveling down to go see something. We'd be kind of like an overwatch and be out there ahead of them, kind of like the Secret Service does for the president in a way.
Right. Yeah, you're clearing the way for convoys and everything else like that. And if you see a threat, you eliminate it.
Yep, exactly. And we took a few guys out about 600 yards away was our farthest shot. But we definitely took out some bad guys, and luckily we all came back safely. Luckily, unfortunately, there was a lot that didn't, but a lot of close calls, but we all made it back.
Chris, I want you to describe the sacrifice of serving your country in a combat zone when you're overseas and you're away from your loved ones, and really you're out on these patrols. And frankly, I know it goes through every Marine's mind when you're in combat is, am I going to get back to the rear tonight? Or is this day on Earth going to be my final day? Just describe that feeling and that emotion. And again, the sacrifice. What went through your head when you were over there?
Wow. Initially, every day was like a fear of like, wow, just like you said, I hope I make it back to, the safety of the base. I hope I get back to, be able to just call my wife or family and see how things are going. Hopefully the next step is not, the last. About a week in, which I don't want to give too much of the book away, But about a week in, we were on the main base trying to, get used to the environment before we took over. The old unit was going home. We were taking over, and we actually had a Marine get taken out by a rocket from the enemy that was killed. His name was Swanberg, and he was killed. I bet you we weren't even in Iraq for 6 days, and we were on the base. We were supposed to be safe. We were supposed to be away from out of harm's way. So from that point on, the feeling of, you know what, if it's going to happen, I just hope it happens quick, took over, which is really jaded for only being a week in country. But after everything started happening, a lot of us were just like, you know what, we tried not to think about it. We tried to just shut off and become numb. But it was definitely a scary time, and there was many occasions where I honestly, if I kind of wrote out that dear mom, dear wife letter saying, you know what, hey, if something happens, mail this back home. We all did, just because we didn't know, what was going to happen. The city of Ramadi was blacklisted for helicopters and low flying aircraft. They couldn't be over the city. They had to be 1,500 feet above and off over the palm groves. They couldn't fly over unless they were just dropping their ordnance, because the RPG and the all that threat was so high that we actually lost a helicopter on the south side of Ramadi about 2 months in. We were losing EOD guys. We were losing it was chaos for probably the whole up until the point where it was time to go. I mean, it wasn't every day, like the news portrays, but it was like it didn't let up. I mean, things went on that it just, Ramadi was hell.
Yeah, I have a good friend that I served with that was killed in Ramadi. He was EOD. The Battle of Ramadi. And now, wasn't that the deadliest battle in Iraq during that time?
It was, and and not to take away anything from anyone else's time, but it was literally, even when I retired, the VA person who was helping me asked, what deployments were you on? And I said, Ramadi in 2005. And they're like, oh. And for a VA person to know about it like that, it's kind of like, wow, like this person's behind the desk, here in the States, safe, and they know about what happened over there. That's pretty scary.
Well, yeah, because you're not the only one in there that's talking about what happened in 2005 in Ramadi.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and being the city the way it was and what happened, it was, of all the deployments and all the things, that deployment was, I think, the hardest thing that I did, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So you had described Ramadi, as chaos. Now, did you guys have good comms? And can you take me through a day in the life of one of your operations? Like I said, when I asked you if you had good comms, because, you got chaos going on. So communication is everything, especially, when it's, when your life is depending on it. You got convoys coming in, you may have, close air support, you got to look out for the guys, on the grounds with RPGs and all that other stuff. You have so much that you have to deal with on your mission, especially as a sniper. Like your mission is to seek and destroy very, very quietly without being, picked out of a building saying, oh, there they are, So, what was that like? Paint us a picture, if you can, if you feel comfortable with it, on what it was like, sights, the smells, and just try to paint that, try to describe it the best way that Chris Whittemore can, again, through the eyes of a Scout Sniper.
Yeah, I think the most, I'll use the gut punch one that's in the book. We would always patrol out, once the vehicles would drop us off, usually about 2-3 in the morning. Everyone was asleep. There was some dogs barking off in the distance, Coke cans rolling down the the street, piles of rock and trash on both sides of the road. As we move silently, through the shadows, the gates would be sliding along the broken road. So it's making that sound like it was going to be opened up. The low flickering lights that hung because the wiring was just garbage over there. So every time the wind would blow, the lights were flashing like someone was flipping the switch, trying to warn the people of our advance. The most heartbreaking time over there was, honestly, we took over a house, which the family was absolutely amazing. The dad spoke really good English, which, we'd been over there for, how many years at this point, but the dad spoke really good English. The family was super supportive. They liked us being over there. They appreciated what we did. He was married, had 3 wives, a few older daughters, and then the youngest daughter was 8 years old. And we'll never forget her. Like even to this day, if we start talking about it, the team that I was with over there, we'll just we'll change the subject really quick. We used their house. We were there for a few days, took out about 4 IED planners, which couldn't have made the enemy very happy. We left about a month later. We went back. We got to the house. It was pitch black. Like when you go to a place and it's that really eerie, like it used to be really lively and exciting. And now it's like COVID at Disneyland. It was just that weird, eerie feeling. We were only going to be there about 3 days. We come in, the man of the house gets up. He's walking with a limp. His family is dissipated. They're not there. So we figured, okay, maybe they went to see a family relative or something like we do here in the States. Until he kind of told us the news of what happened. And shortly after we left, the enemy showed up to the house, killed his wife, beat him up, and shot their little 8-year-old girl out in the street as a warning, like, you let the Americans take over your house, this is what's going to happen to your family. To kill a young kid, that was, we of course all took that on ourselves. Like, God, if we wouldn't have taken over this house, that kid would still be alive. And that took years and years of therapy and stuff like that to get over that one. But that's kind of just one of those missions where you just never knew. The cost associated with, an 8-year-old girl getting killed, vehicles pulling away as you climb over a wall, an IED goes off and throws you, 20 feet into another, sniper that was with you. Every day was something different. And the worst part was it was during the rainy season. So everything smelled like a garbage dump meets low tide at the beach. So if you blended those together, that's kind of what Ramadi smelled like for 7 months.
Incredible. Folks, we are being joined today by U.S. Marine combat veteran and Scout Sniper Chris Whittemore. He has written a book called Terror to Triumph. This book is based on his real-life experiences, on a true story about the Battle of Ramadi as seen through the lenses of Chris himself. He will give you a boots-on-the-ground perspective of war and what it's like to come home after facing the realities of war. Now, Chris has seen things that he can't unsee. He's seen things that he cannot talk about. Again, there's therapy here that will go on for a lifetime. And, that's the sacrifice that one takes to serve their country and to do it honorably and to take care of the civilians that are over there and try to protect them while taking out the enemy, again, to protect our homeland here so that fight doesn't come to the streets of the United States of America. So it does take special men like Chris to go in there that are very well trained and capable of carrying out these missions. Now, again, if you want to know more about his story, I definitely urge you, go to Google, do a Google search, Terror to Triumph. His book is sold everywhere books are sold online. It'll make for a great Christmas present. And if you get it today, it'll be under that tree and gift wrap for your special loved one, whether they're a veteran, whether they're active duty military, or if it's your neighbor, if it's the person that bags groceries at your local a Walmart or your local Kroger, get that book. You'll be supporting a great man here, a warrior, and a U.S. Marine combat veteran. Now, I want to get into you getting out of the Marine Corps and then coming back in. And I know we've kind of jumped around a little bit, but you got out and then you went back in because you felt you were called to serve. You get into the Battle of Ramadi and, you're Scout Sniper and all this stuff. And then you do some cross training and you get into being a crew chief. I mean, you went from one extreme to the other. I mean, these two guys make fun of each other, right? You are sniper about as Marine as it gets. And then you go to the air wing, right? And you're like, oh, wow, you're swinging with the wing. Now, describe what that transition was like, because that's almost like two different Marine Corps right there.
Yeah. Going from the infantry to the air wing was like, especially being an E5 or a sergeant already, I was like in culture shock. It was kind of like a kid going to their first day of school, should be in elementary school, but walking through the doors of Harvard. I mean, it was just absolutely mind-boggling. In the infantry, you don't go to see the lieutenants or the captains, and you dang sure don't want to see the majors or above, because that means you screwed up really bad. In the air wing, those are who you're going to go into battle with: lieutenant colonels, majors, captains, lieutenants, right. and rank is out the window. So it was probably the wildest transition, because I honestly thought, I'm going to save my back and my knees that I've abused during my time in the infantry, but, kneeling and twisting and bending, either on the floor of the helicopter as we flying around or bending through, trying to work on the engines and stuff like that. It didn't help the back of the knees at all. But it was swinging with the wing. You're not out in the grassy lands wearing the ghillie suits, sweating for 6-7 days at a time. You were, fly out, do the missions, fly back, hot shower, or whatever the case was. But it was a wild transition. And a good friend of ours, Shannon Book, always gives me a hard time about, jumping over to the wing, and, he's like, what are you doing? But it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun.
That mission is extremely important. I mean, talk about, that close air support, you're taking care of Marines, you're looking out for ambushes, you're picking up the wounded, that's, being in a Huey, you're kind of doing everything, and did you have a 50 cal mounted on your Huey?
Yeah. We had the 50 cal, on the left-hand side, and we had the Gatling gun on the right-hand side. So if we didn't get you with the 50, which we're normally going to get you with the 50, but if we don't have that, we've got 3,000 rounds of 7.62 coming your way with the Gatling gun. And then of course the rocket pods were packed full, and we'd fly as a hunter-killer team with us, one Huey and one Cobra. Would always be on the mission together. So if we didn't get you with the Huey, the Cobra was right there. So don't worry, more's coming your way. And it was, in 2010 was another one of those chaotic events, being with, So that was another fun time in the life of Chris, that's for sure.
Got a great friend of mine that I grew up with, Major Haynes, United States Marine Corps, combat pilot, right? I think he was with HMLA 369, if I remember correctly. He's been on this podcast before, but again, he's a Cobra pilot. And man, those things, you don't want to get on the other side, and you don't want to get on the other end of one of those. I'll tell you that right now.
No, and we had a great relationship, and it was it just proved how small the Marine Corps was as well. Going to 369, it was just like, wow. Okay. That's
a pretty decorated unit, right? In the Marine Corps?
Yeah, it's definitely, we call it the world famous gunfighters. But what made it so interesting for my story was 369 was the helicopter squadron that was supporting us in 2005 when I was on the ground in Ramadi, went to that same unit where there was actually a few pilots and crew chiefs that flew over Ramadi while I was on the ground that was still there. So we got to compare stories. And then flying in 2010, all the units that I had been with in the infantry were on the ground and we were flying in support of them. So it was,
wow.
That was gut wrenching. That was a little tough.
That gives me goosebumps.
Chris. It gave me goosebumps too.
You went full circle. You were on the ground. You had close air support. You were, again, a scout sniper on the ground, in a very, very, very long and tiring and exhausting and bloody battle in Ramadi. And then you fast forward, and now you find yourself in the air giving that close air support to the same folks that so you know exactly what they're going through. You know exactly what's going on. You know where you need to be. You know where to be positioned. And you also have a lot of that intel that you could feed to that major or that captain or that lieutenant colonel pilot and say, hey, look, I've been here before and I've been on the ground here. So if I were you, I would maybe take this route or maybe consider doing this or getting low here and maybe getting high here. It's like you have all that critical information there, again, from experience. And really, in war, experience is everything. I mean, it could save your life. It could save the life of all the Marines down there that could be getting ambushed, or you could be getting in to deflect something, or really they save that helicopter that you're in from being shot down on, because you have so much of this information, again, that they may not know just because of your real life experience going through it all.
Yeah. And even more wild was there was Marines that I served with in Ramadi that were in the different units below as well. So it was crazy. It was just like, it was a blur. It was 7 months of chaos. And we actually set the flight record for any deployed unit. We flew 9,700 flight hours in 7 months. And we actually, 6 weeks in, every pilot and every crew chief was on a flight waiver from the flight surgeon, so we could fly beyond, the naval flight rules. And, just like commercial airline pilots have, you can only fly so many hours. And we actually were all in the red, had a waiver within 6 weeks, and we just flew until, we were done. So it was, supported a lot of great units, and did, like you said, every mission that the Huey was supposed to be there for. We would do medevacs, this, that, and the other things. So.
And Shannon would be very, like, hey, I'm glad to see that Huey come in, so he gave you crap. But, hey, that's what devil docs do, especially when you left him on the ground. He's like, now my boy's in the air. But, hey, I'm going to have this guy. I'm going to take good care of you, book.
Yep. No, absolutely. And the highlight of that deployment, and probably the highlight of, God, there's so many fun and amazing stories in the book. Please go out there and get it and really get in depth. But I think the highlight of the 2010 deployment was we were QRF for a recon unit that was pinned down in the city of Marja. We flew over gun run after gun run. We took out, I think the BDA was 17 enemy fighters no longer in the fight. And the coolest part was it all happened on the 4th of July, which was just wild. And we have a picture in the book of the two pilots and me and the other crew chief holding the American flag outside of the helicopter. And that was the coolest thing ever.
It's amazing. And I have that picture. I've been getting the great thing about this podcast is that I've had so many of you warriors on. So many American heroes that their stories aren't often told, and getting their stories out there, like you and others, they send me, their pictures so I can make some nice content and promote the show, promote their show, and give them some sort of a platform to be proud of, and share the sacrifice. And like I said, I've got so many amazing combat pictures and like motivational and stuff like that. I'm thinking about going and just getting a bunch of just printing them off my printer here and getting a big frame and just doing this massive collage of like these legends and just sticking it on my wall and say, man, I've interviewed all these guys, and that's just great history there, to be proud of. And again, I'm getting goosebumps here because that's everything, that's our freedom. That is liberty. And that's not an easy job. That's that sacrifice, again, it is everything that a lot of people don't understand. We've got less than 1%, 1% of 355 million people in our country that are serving right now in the U.S. military, in the U.S. Armed Services. So when you meet guys that have been on the ground, such as yourself, that have saw some heavy combat from all different aspects, that says something right there. That says something about who you are as a person. That says a lot about your character, about being called back to serve again. And you did whatever, you did what the Marine Corps asked you to do. You did the mission. And again, you did it very well and you were successful at it. Now, we could talk all day about your combat experiences and stuff like that, but I want to start adding some real life value to the veteran community and what you're doing now. And folks, if you want more information on his stories and about what it was really like, again, go online, Google Terror to Triumph by Chris Whittemore. Get that book today. It is so fairly priced. It's unreal. Amazon will have it to your house in 2 days. Gift wrap it and give it to a veteran or somebody that's serving active duty right now. This book, again, it's amazing. It's a great read. And it'll give you so much perspective on what he's talking about now. And we're not even scratching the surface, folks. So support this U.S. Marine combat veteran, Scout Sniper, and crew chief, and get that book today. Now, I want to know about what's going on right now in the veteran community. You get out, and again, it's like you are a servant. You have been a servant nearly your entire life. And again, that speaks very highly of your character. And it's like, well, what are you doing now? Well, you're working as you worked as a case manager at Veterans Court, and now you're a military service officer helping veterans and servicemen and women get disability ratings and benefits with the VA. Now, describe what that's like right now, and tell me what your mission is right now to help the veterans that are coming back and getting out right now and transitioning from their military service into the civilian world.
Our main goal is we actually are going onto the bases with active duty people, and we see old retired guys from Vietnam all the way to date. They come in and see us, and we help them and advocate for them with the VA to submit their VA disability ratings. A lot of people they don't want to submit the VA rating for whatever reason. They're in their head, their ego, I didn't do as much as this guy did. If I could tell anybody out there listening, don't worry about what someone else did. Worry about what you did. It's not our job or their job to tell them what disability they have or don't have, or what rating they have or don't have. Come in. It only takes an hour and a half, depending on how long you've been out. We'll make sure you have all the right documents. We'll submit the claim to the VA for you. We'll advocate for you with the VA. We'll stay on top of the VA and make sure they're doing their job. You come in, do the paperwork, kick back, relax, wait for the results, and allow us. Don't worry about the stigma. Don't worry about the I didn't do what this person did or anything like that. Be vulnerable. Come in, get the help you need. Don't wait 40 years like some Vietnam vet guys did. Don't wait, a long time like I did. Don't be that person. Get the help you need. Ask for the help, and just have a better life with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones, with everyone. I mean, those people who hid in the shadows for all that time and they never gotten help. My wife's a perfect example. Her father was in Vietnam in the 60s and didn't start getting help until 2006. So think about all that time that he was struggling, that he could have had help, and who knows what their life would have looked like growing up, or for that matter, anyone else that's dealt with, military service. And that's why, a big reason for the book, is there's a million war stories out there. And I didn't want to write another war story because no one really wants to read another war story. But I really wanted to talk about the realities of coming back from deployments, the nightmares, the drinking, the pills, all the trauma that we are dealing with, what we make our families deal with. And I really wanted to, provide that little beacon of hope. Like, if I can do all the chaos and crap that I went through, and still come out on the other side standing, so can you. Pick up the book, read the book, family, friends, pick up the book for them. They may now have a better understanding of what you're going through. And now you may bond even closer, because now they understand what you're going through. And check out some of the reviews on Amazon, as, a bunch of guys that I served with in 2005 and in the 90s even picked up the book to unload their stuff. Turned out that, hey, we reconnected, and now, they're able to start rebuilding relationships with their kids after 17 years because their kids didn't understand why dad was isolating away and drinking every day, and all that stuff. So, get out there and do it for yourself and for no one else. And you'll love what you see coming out on the other side.
Absolutely. And like what Chris said, it's some of my stories, being a Scout Sniper, you do a good job of going through the combat situations and some of the war stories, but where you completely have separated yourself from the rest of all of these books out there is this. And I want to share this with you. Now, the beginning of Chris' book, or half it, again, it's the Fallujah. It's the, fighting in Ramadi. It's him being a Scout Sniper. It's him being, a crew chief. And I think the most important thing is this: take the final journey by facing the reality of the struggles that servicemen and servicewomen face with coping with horrors of the war, the fight against the stigma of being broken, and finding a way to transition back into the civilian world. Now, that's what a lot of veterans have problems and issues with, is that transition back into the civilian world. Now, this is the hectic journey that one Marine, okay, and their families, okay, it's not just Marine, it's their families as well, that go through after each deployment. And finding a way to stay strong through the darkest times and triumphing from the darkness and finding success against all odds. Now, this is why Chris is so successful in everything he's doing today. He went through a lot of stuff. He's seen things that other people will never see. And again, he has sacrificed so much, and he's done it in an honorable way. But he's going to give you perspective that maybe you have never seen before, because this guy's a fighter on the ground, in the air, and now at home. He's not only fighting for himself through post-traumatic stress and the anxieties and the depressions of war, but what he does now is he dedicates his time and energy to helping you, to helping the veteran come home and to get these transitional services, to get the benefits that you deserve and all that other stuff. Chris, if a veteran is listening to this right now, says, I need help. I need to get my VA benefits started. I need a counselor. I need to talk to a military service officer. What type of advice would you give them right now to get started?
Take that first step, get off the couch, open the door, and take that step into the light. Or hopefully it's a nice, clear, sunny day like it is here, and go find the resource. Google it. There's hundreds of resources. And if you live in San Antonio or you live in Texas, take that step, be vulnerable, get the help that you need. It's scary. I'll be the first to admit it. I talk about it in the book. Scariest thing was asking for help. But the best thing I ever did was ask for help, because now life on the other side of that dark cloud and that dark shadow is so much better, and you can enjoy life. There's still so much more out there for you. Don't take yourself out of the fight, stay in the fight, and the only thing stopping you is you.
Mm-hmm. What got you through your hardest times, Chris?
Honestly, my wife, she was resilient, stubborn. She was that foot in the backside that I needed. After all those deployments, she stayed with me through the ups, the downs, the waking her up at 2 a.m. to go to the store and buy more alcohol because me and my friends still needed to keep drinking so we could sleep that night. All the stuff that she went through with taking care of me during the Wounded Warrior Battalion transition, the surgeries, just all the stuff that she went through that I discuss in the book as well. Our families go through absolute just as much hell as we did. And, if you know that you've put your family through stuff because of the, deployment stuff, spend the holidays and thank them for everything they've done, because there's no way that I would be here today without her grabbing me by the collar and kicking me in the backside saying, you're going to get help. And if I have to drag you down there myself, that's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they serve right alongside of you, all your loved ones, from your mom and dad, your wife, children, aunts, uncles, cousins, whoever loves that veteran, they are serving alongside of you. And there's so many lives that are touched through the sacrifice of service. And really, at the end of the day, that's exactly what it is. It is that sacrifice of the service. And, that is everything. And always remember, guys, get 1% better today than what you were yesterday, because there is hope out there and you can get better. And again, just with talking, with guys like Chris, who have they've done it all. And we've got an hour here and we haven't even talked about him being a police officer and being, this guy's done it all. Okay. And again, you've got guys like this out here that are so educational, that are full of knowledge and wisdom and, great experience, that are ready to help you make that transition a successful one. And there's thousands of Chris all throughout the country, and wherever you're at, Google and find that military service officer liaison. And, come across your Chris, because these guys are here to sit down with you. They have, drinking out of the same hose as you and have walked the same grounds that you have. So again, like-minded individuals, they've been there, they know what you're going through, and they know what it takes to help you effectively. And so I just wanted to talk about Chris's book one more time here before we leave, because again, it's a great book. It's very deserving of being bought, because Chris has an amazing story, and he made himself vulnerable, not for himself, but to help all the other families out there that have struggled with the wounds of war. So again, go online, Google Terror to Triumph. The book is based on a true story about the Battle of Ramadi, as seen through the lenses of a Marine Scout Sniper. This is a book about what it's like, a boots on the ground perspective of war, and more importantly, coming home after war and going through the experiences of the post-traumatic stress, the anxieties, the depression, the alcohol, the substance abuse, the living in your room and completely self-isolating and turning the world off around you. Folks, there is hope out there. So, Chris, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today, man. We appreciate everything you have done and continue to do in the military and veteran community. Your service, your sacrifice, your dedication, sir. It is truly honorable and admirable.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Until next time, for Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night.